Alright, I think I'm late enough. Let's talk about Barbie. Hi, I'm Mackenzie and welcome back to the Women's Direction YouTube channel. As I said, today we are finally getting into the nitty-gritty of Greta Gerwig's Barbie. Now, I had zero expectations walking into the cinemas to see Barbie, and even after a monster marketing campaign, some of which I was actually a part of. Yes, I don't mean to brag, but I was about an arm's length away from Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie herself for a TikTok live stream that occurred here in Sydney. But ever since the film was announced, the question on everybody's lips around me was, are you going to see the Barbie movie? The perception from people around me about what this film would be kind of fell into two categories, I noticed. One was people who were sort of optimistically excited to see the film, and the other half were people who were kind of apathetically judgmental about it. As soon as I saw Greta and Noah were attached to this project, I knew we weren't gonna get your typical fairy tale, fluffy, princessy type film, and I was actually still really surprised by the film that we got. Barbie and Ken are having the time of their lives in the perfect world of Barbie Land. However, when they get the chance to visit the real world, they soon discover the joys and perils of living amongst humans. This seemingly innocent premise fittingly left a lot to the imagination, and the true story of Barbie was very well hidden beneath its pastel pink exterior. By now I think most people are pretty aware of what Barbie is actually about, but if you have managed to avoid spoilers, then I would recommend skipping this video and coming back after you've had the chance to experience it for yourself. I do have quite a lot to say about the themes and messages present within Barbie, but I'm going to talk a bit generally about the film first for anyone who maybe hasn't had the chance to see it yet. The performances, particularly from Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, were key elements to making this film work. I feel without their knockout line delivery, Barbie probably wouldn't have hit as hard. I also have to shout out America Ferrera, who plays Gloria. Her monologue and the delivery was just an absolute standout moment of the entire film. And also Kate McKinnon, who played Weird Barbie. Oh, she just has such a beautiful energy that she brings to all of her roles, particularly I've seen under female direction. It was also so fantastic to see the diverse range of cast representing the main group of Kens and Barbies. Actors such as Sharon Rooney, Issa Rae, Hari Nef, Shruti Gatwa, and Simu Liu, just to name a few. Now, I can't talk about the diversity of the representation in this film without drawing attention to some of the criticisms the film has had in regards to its disability representation. There is a Barbie in a wheelchair and one with a bionic arm, but they're only seen very briefly at the start of the film, and neither of these characters have any lines or are prominent towards moving the story forward. Now, there's actually an excellent Insider article written by Esme Mazzeo that delves into this topic with a little bit more depth and understanding, and brings up the point that Barbie does already pack a lot into its 2-hour runtime in terms of representation and, I guess, unconventional topics. Yet Hollywood can be doing much more when it comes to representation of disability on the silver screen. I'll link the article in the description box below if you want to go and give it a read. Aesthetically, Barbie hits all of the right notes. The costuming and production design in general was just such a spot-on recreation of childhood nostalgia and whimsy in Barbie Land, and created that sense of peril and messiness once we switched over to the real world. I loved the special effects and sound design that just brought those doll-like qualities to all of the characters, and I will take my hat off to the set designers, in particular for the sequence when they travelled from Barbie Land to the real world. Oh, it's just such a stunning callback to the theatre and cinema of old, and I absolutely adored it. Alright, moving forward, I'm going to be going into spoiler territory, so you have been warned. The true story of Barbie, unsurprisingly given its director, is a feminist manifesto. And a jam-packed one at that. The Barbies live in the matriarchal society of Barbie Land, where the Barbies run everything and everything is perfect. They live under the impression that their existence as dolls in the real world has stopped all issues with sexism and allowed feminism to flourish. That is, until stereotypical Barbie awakes one morning with thoughts of death, cellulite, and flat feet. Flat feet! To fix herself, Barbie must travel to the real world to find the little girl who's playing with her. Ken tags along in the back seat, and after arriving in the real world, they realise that things aren't quite what they thought. Barbie discovers the little girl playing with her is actually an adult woman, and Ken discovers patriarchy.
But I'm a man.
But not a doctor.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
I need a clicky pen?
No.
A sharp thing?
No.
There he is. Doctor!
Somebody get security.
They bring both back to Barbie Land, but things are soon turned on their head when they discover that Ken has introduced everyone to patriarchy, turning Barbie Land into Kendom. The remaining unbrainwashed Barbies use the patriarchy against the men and take Barbie Land back, now vowing to be more inclusive of people's wants and dreams, regardless of their gender. I was honestly overwhelmed by just how political this film actually was. Considering the brand with which these feminist messages were being broadcast, it was actually kind of refreshing to see a big corporation such as Mattel sign off on a film that, for one, allowed herself to be criticized, at least a little bit, and also spoke in an incredibly left-leaning way. The brazenness of the film's writing was actually a little uncomfortable for me at first, and not in a I disagree with the points they're making kind of a way, but just that it was so open with its viewpoints and in using terminology that has kind of become taboo a little bit in society, like patriarchy. Even as a self-proclaimed feminist, it took me a little while to get adjusted to the dialogue, but you know, the writing quickly became one of the film's biggest positives for me. I realized that Barbie wasn't going to bury its point of view in subtext or in throwaway one-liners. Often I find it hard to talk about some of the topics brought up in the Barbie movie in the real world, and this may come as a bit of a surprise considering how open I am about my opinions on the internet, but when I'm in a face-to-face conversation with someone, I think sometimes it's easier to sort of hold back or not be so open with my opinions or views on things as a kind of like self-preservation method, I think. So it was nice to see a film, particularly, you know, the Barbie movie, being so open with its point of view. It was kind of shocking, but also really cool to see. Now, I consider a film to be successful to a degree if it's made you feel something, and throughout watching Barbie, I felt a whole plethora of emotions, from childlike joy to bitter sadness. In both showings I went to, I heard the audience's laughter all around me, but when I got out of the film, I spoke to some people and heard other accounts of some audiences not really understanding the film. There are of course those who sit on the conservative side of the fence who are just utterly enraged by Barbie, which I find so hilarious. And they all insist on speaking openly about their criticisms of the film, whilst unknowingly doing all of the things that the film was making comments about in the first place. Hi, Ben Shapiro. Whilst this is problematic, it's these people that I'm not so worried about, because Barbie was never going to change their thoughts and opinions on feminism and the patriarchy anyway. The audiences that I'm concerned about are the boys who come away from watching Barbie not realizing that the film was also speaking to them. It's the men out there who walk away from the theatre still questioning the existence of patriarchy because, well, they've never treated a woman as lesser, so how can it be real if I can't see it? I would argue that Barbie is equally about Ken. He goes on a huge character arc and draws attention to an often blindsided part of the feminist argument, which is how our patriarchal society also negatively affects men. The critics that say that Barbie is anti-man are completely missing the point. And yes, there is a lot in the film about the impact on women. Gloria's monologue in particular had me tearing up both times I went to see the film in the cinema. But we cannot ignore the fact that men are part of this journey as well. The reason the introduction of patriarchy is so detrimental to Barbie Land isn't solely because of the negative impact it has on women, but because it denigrates men's worth as well. So much so that the Kens go to war with one another to figure out who the best Kens are. This reflects on the patriarchal pressures and negative impact of toxic masculinity within our own patriarchal society. Because Barbie Land starts as this matriarchal society where the women rule everything, I think some people are getting a bit confused thinking that this opening world is somehow the perfect ideal. Because as the film progresses, we learn that this matriarchal Barbie Land was not perfect. After Barbie Land has been altered to Kendom and back again, we actually see elements of both societies coming together in the set design, the costumes, and the lessons learnt by the characters. They learn that their society needs to be more inclusive of everyone and self-accepting. And this is the true goal of feminism: equity for all. For those who think Barbie was going to be like its animated predecessors, you are very much mistaken. This film is, at its core and in every imaginable way, a film about feminism. It's a film about how our societal structures can affect everyone, regardless of gender. And whilst I agree with all the points the film was making, I do wonder if they tried to pack too much in. It can jump around a lot from one thing to the next, so I do wonder if perhaps this pacing and the overstuffing of themes were why it left some people unable to fully comprehend most of the messages. At times the dialogue can get a little heavy with the political speak, but it's often cocooned in clever, witty lines that leave you with a wry smile and food for thought. Now, I have complained on the blog before about films trying to insert their woke agendas into places where they're not really needed, and I do stand by that opinion. Barbie, however, was a film about these issues, so nothing ever felt ham-fisted in a way that was trying to appease a certain crowd, or in a way that appeared completely out of context to the story, because the story was feminism. Using the Barbie brand to tell this story was a huge risk for Mattel, as it's one of those brands that has come under fire for contributing to some of the issues that the film raises. Things like sexism, stereotyping, body shaming, and more. The film, however, doesn't shy away from pointing that out, which I really appreciated. I applaud Mattel for signing off on some of those self-burns, regardless of their hesitancy. Now, there is a little bit of concern for the future direction of Mattel product films. There's been rumours about a Hot Wheels film and a Polly Pocket film, I think, and this concern has kind of arisen, particularly after the absolute box office smash that Barbie has been around the world. If we continue to get films with powerful stories and not just lazy money grabs, then this could actually be a much more lucrative path for Mattel to travel down. If we must rehash old properties and cash in on that nostalgia, then I would much rather see it done in the way that Greta Gerwig has with Barbie, with a concept that sparks progressive conversation, whilst also being a well-written and visually enticing romp. And I sincerely hope that we don't end up with a Barbie sequel like the world's media is trying to instigate right now. I think any continuation of this idea in the same realm is just going to weaken the strength of the film that we got. So to conclude, I feel like Barbie is probably one of the most unexpected knockouts of 2023. And honestly, it's only cemented Greta Gerwig as a directorial master of the 21st century, in my eyes. Barbie has heart, integrity, self-awareness, and intelligence that I don't think anyone expected out of a film this pink, which, you know, says a lot about what the film was saying. The conversations about this film and the topics it brought to the forefront will linger far longer than any of that pink glitter embedded in the cinema floor carpets. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. And I would love to hear what all of you thought of Barbie in the comments below. Plus, if you made it this far, then leave me a pink heart as well, so I know that you did. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you enjoyed this film review, we have way more over on our website, thewomensdirection.com, so head on over there and check some of those out if you're interested. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye, Barbie! Expectations walking into the cinemas to see Barbie, even after that monster of... okay. Whilst this does have a level of problemicity? Is that even a word? Did I invent a word? I definitely didn't. Plus, if you made it all to... He goes on a huge character arc and draws attention to one of the blindsided... He goes on a huge character arc and draws attention to one of the most blindsided parts of the feminist argument, which is how our patriarchal society... Oh my god. Which is how our patriarchal society also negatively affects men. Yeah! Why was that so hard to say? My life.